Hey guys, we are back for Sweetrobin's fanfiction project. The Samuel chapter is coming together really well and should be out relatively soon. It's very long, but it's really fun, and I think you're all gonna love it. There were actually more submissions for Samuel than any other previous chapter by a very large margin. People's interest in Sam was crazy high, and a lot of great ideas came in. And so next we're going to move on to Bran, which is of course super challenging. Not only are we dealing with the main cause of the entire Ice and Fire story, but we also have time travel and a really weird timeline. Bran chapters tend to be on the short side, so try to keep the submissions between 4,000 and 6,000 words. So what's weird about Bran is that Bran 3, A Dance with Dragons, happens not even at the halfway point of that book, but it also takes place over several months. So we have no idea when the Bran action is actually taking place. It might be before many events in A Dance with Dragons, after, concurrent, and I think this is our author's intent. Time is all out of whack. On top of this, we also seem to have Bran, or a Bran, visiting Theon later in his story, and so we're going to try to deal with this by having a lot of ambiguity. Bran is a very interesting point of view as the language is relatively simple. He's a little boy, and the sentences are remarkably short. But it's also rather poetic, so it's best to reread Bran 3 to get Bran's style down. It's unique. Now, with the story, I'd like to start the story at an ambiguous time. You can use something simple like the moon was crescent, that's fine, but if you'd like to try something more complicated like the moon having many phases or something weird with time, go for it. We just want no specifics on when we are exactly. Then Mira comes to Bran with a blade of Valyrian steel and a piece of Jojen's clothing that she found when exploring the tunnels, and she dumps them in front of Bran. Mira and Bran have barely spoken for some time. Mira spends all of her days, searching the tunnels, climbing up and down passageways, searching for Jojen. Today, deep within the earth, Mira found the sword and the cloth. She announces that she knows who the Green Seer is, and he's one of the most scheming men to ever live. Bran has suspected the same thing for a long time, and he's heard Old Nan's stories of him. And here you can go into some of Bloodraven's worst activities. Mira says that she believes that Bloodraven and the Children of the Forest did something with Jojen, and she wants to leave. And then we're going to flash back to essentially where Bran 3 ended. Mira comes to Bran in a panic, Jojen is missing, and she spent the night looking for him. He often liked to venture to the cave's entrance, but he's not there. She's checked a number of other locations that they go often, but he's nowhere to be found. They ask Leaf, who says the children haven't seen him, and Brynden says that he does not feel him within the trees. Bran offers to go with Mira to search the tunnels, but she doesn't think that's a good idea. Some of the passages may be too small for Hodor to carry Bran, not to mention Bran would slow them down. He offers to follow her with Summer, and she agrees. Mira is convinced that Jojen is somewhere near the surface. Jojen often told her that today was not the day he would die. How would he know it was day unless he saw the sun? And so Mira decides to venture to the cave's back door. The trip to the back door is a long one, being 3 leagues or 9 miles, down tight tunnels that rise and descend. It takes most of the day, but they do arrive at the sinkhole. The door to the sinkhole is oddly a proper stone doorway, ancient, with a smooth piece of stone that is all one piece, no cracks in it. The sinkhole itself is a huge cylinder going up 700 feet. A bumpy curtain of ice covers the interior, thicker up top and overhanging. You have to use the word curtain at some point in the description. On the floor have formed giant ice stalagmites, and it's rather clear that the children have been keeping the path clear. Rocks and stones have been moved aside to allow access. It would be an easy thing for the children to climb up, but it would be a rather treacherous, dangerous climb for a man or wolf. Here's some pictures of what the sinkhole might look like. Curtains of ice, a very difficult climb, ice stalagmites. Summer then becomes very uncomfortable and fearful. He looks back to the door and suddenly hears Hodor, Hodor, Hodor. Bran is then drawn back to his body where Hodor is waking him up. Leaf and Coles are there, and Leaf says that the Green Seer wants to continue their lessons. Later that night, Mira returns, having not found Jojen. She cries herself to sleep exhausted. And here the flashback ends. Time passes, the moon changes. Mira spends each day searching the tunnels, sometimes with Summer, sometimes with Hodor, usually alone. Every day, Bran scans the world outside as a crow, but has found nothing. Often Mira says she'll leave the next day, but she never does. She instead keeps searching for Jojen. And here you can have Bran looking back in time at various events. You can pick something interesting, but it must be in front of the weirwood. Winterfell history, the Wall, the Night Fort, the war between the children and the First Men, the war with the others, whatever you like, but keep things ambiguous. Then time passes, the moon changes, and we're going to have Bran get the courage to ask Bloodraven about the sword and how he came to be the Three-Eyed Crow. And here, it's up to you to invent Bloodraven's story. You can include anything you want about him as Lord Commander, the Raven's Teeth, Cold Hands, Dark Sister, the sacrifices at the Night Fort, why Craster's Keep is there, why Bloodraven went north. In the end, though, Bloodraven says that he gave himself over to the children to be their Greenseer, to protect the world. The wall must continue to stand. He took a vow as a brother of the Night's Watch, though that was a long time ago. He is a different man now, if a man at all, but he needs a successor. And if Bran prefers, he can consider himself a Lord Commander. A crow. Bran will then want to know about his dreams, the ice spires, the curtain at the end of the world, the heart of winter. And Bloodraven will have no idea what Bran is talking about. Bran will be puzzled and say that Bloodraven came to him as a three-eyed crow and they flew together. He also visited Jojen and his brother Rickon. And Bloodraven will be confused. He'll say that when he came to Bran, he spoke through the trees and he was as he is now. And then time passes, the moon changes. Bran wakes up to Summer's hearing of Mira crying, as he does most nights. Tonight, Bran feels bold, so he gets on Hodor's back and the two venture all night with Summer out to the sinkhole. After a very long journey where Hodor and Bran had to squeeze through holes and scramble up and down terrain, Bran, Hodor, and Summer make it to the sinkhole and sit down in the middle of it between the ice spires. Bran looks at the curtain of ice, the stalagmites, the door. He's exhausted, so he snuggles up with Hodor and Summer and closes his eyes. Then he sees the three-eyed crow gliding in the hole above. Bran looks about, and there, on the ice spire, he sees a man impaled. The man wears a doublet with a direwolf on it. And there, he has a twin on another spire. And then he sees a triplet. And then he realizes that there's dozens of men, hundreds of men on the ice spires. Boys, too, impaled. Some on the floor with their heads smashed in, others torn apart limb from limb. And then he realizes there's not hundreds, but thousands of the little boys. Thousands of them. And the chapter ends with Bran realizing that they all have his face. And that's the long and short of it, but if you think of something else, please include it. Good luck writing, and we'll see you next time.